Support for this podcast comes from St. Alphonsus Sports Medicine, offering services for sports injury and recovery, with physicians and athletic trainers who provide treatment for fractures, dislocations, sprains, strains, and other sports-related issues. More information on services at stalphonsus.org. Love Boise State Public Radio podcasts? They are free to enjoy, but not free to produce. If you can give, your support helps keep shows like Idaho Matters and Scandalize available to everyone. Donate now at boisestatepublicradio.org.
On a Thursday, April 30th, it's The Connector, Idaho Daily News from Boise State Public Radio. I'm Troy Oppie. Here are this morning's headlines. Illegally importing timber will cost the Boise Cascade Company nearly $6.4 million. A former priest in Nampa has been sentenced to prison for sexual abuse of a minor. And a stabbing suspect shot to death by police in Twin Falls Wednesday. Those stories in just a moment. First, how you can help researchers in Idaho who are working to better understand the habitat of one of the state's native trout species. Climate change is shrinking snowpacks in the western U.S. That's a threat to fish. Here's James Dawson with more.
College of Idaho professor Chris Walser and others will soon install wooden posts along Dry Creek in the Boise foothills. Hikers and mountain bikers along the trail can use the posts to take consistent photos of the creek that will track when and where the water dries up. Walser says conservationists can use that data to help native red-band trout survive.
We might, in some cases, be able to move fish from an area that we think is going to go dry to upstream areas.
Red-band trout are related to rainbow trout, but are specially adapted to live in the inland Northwest, especially as climate change brings hotter temperatures.
Some studies have shown that they can, live in water as warm as like 85 degrees Fahrenheit, which is really warm for a trout. They can also tolerate really low oxygen levels.
Crews will begin installing the photo stations along Dry Creek in mid-May. You can find out more about the project at boisestatepublicradio.org. James Dawson, Boise State Public Radio News.
Close to 250,000 hatchery rainbow trout will be stocked in Idaho waterways and ponds next month. The State Department of Fish and Game says many of the stocked fish are destined for local ponds and creeks, specifically to appeal to families and kids who may just be getting started as anglers. In the Boise area, that will include Esther Simplot Pond and Park Center Pond. Stocking begins in May. There is a full list of where the fish are headed at idfg.idaho.gov. Twin Falls police say a suspect shot by officers during an attempted arrest died at the scene yesterday. In a post on social media, Twin Falls police say a stabbing reported yesterday afternoon led to the identification of a suspect at a residence on Washington Street North in Twin Falls. The Joint Police Sheriff's SWAT team was deployed around 5 p.m. yesterday to apprehend the stabbing suspect, but that person was ultimately shot by law enforcement. Emergency medical personnel on scene for the apprehension process attempted life-saving measures but were unsuccessful. The circumstances and details of the shooting were not provided by Twin Falls Police. The Cassia County Sheriff's Office will lead the critical incident investigation. A former priest at St. Paul's Catholic Church in Nampa was sentenced on Wednesday to 15 years in prison after pleading guilty to sexual abuse of a minor. 45-year-old Robert Mendez Esquivel, known in his church as Father Toto, was arrested in August last year after Nampa police discovered Esquivel had met and had sex with a 16-year-old who had contacted Esquivel on the dating site Grindr. The minor initially said they were 18. Investigators, though, say Esquivel continued to engage with the minor after they revealed their true age. A judge denied a request for retained jurisdiction and probation, calling the crime, quote, absolutely wrong and unacceptable in our society. Esquivel must serve 3 years before becoming eligible for parole. The bishop of the Catholic Diocese of Boise, in a statement, offered continued prayers for the victim's healing and noted the diocese's full cooperation with law enforcement throughout the investigation. The diocese, in statements dating back to Esquivel's arrest, though, has not said what church discipline he may face. The Ada County Sheriff's Office says an 87-year-old Star woman died at a local hospital yesterday after an accident in a parking lot involving the pickup truck she'd been riding in. The woman and a 90-year-old male driver were parking at Sully's Irish Restaurant around 4 p.m. The woman got out to help guide the pickup into a parking spot. Police say It appears the man inadvertently drove forward and hit the woman. No foul play is suspected. Sully's on Facebook indicated the two were a couple. Police did not specify. The County Sheriff's Office Accident Reconstruction Team is investigating and is asking for anyone who witnessed the accident to speak with investigators. Illegally importing timber from China will cost the Boise Cascade Company nearly $6.4 million in fines. The U.S. Department of Justice on Monday announced Boise Cascade had admitted violating the Lacey Act in a scheme to avoid countervailing and anti-dumping import taxes. Prosecutors in a news release said Boise Cascade was either willfully ignorant or knowingly skirting the law on about $30 million worth of purchases from Horizon Plywood between 2018 and 2021. Those purchases were accepted at Boise Cascade's Florida distribution operation and then sold for as much as $65 million. Horizon Plywood's principal operators were sentenced for Lacey Act violations in 2024. The city of McCall is asking residents to immediately reduce water use due to a pipe failure at the city's water treatment plant Wednesday. The city says a pipe failed around 4:30 yesterday afternoon during routine maintenance. Water users are asked to limit their use to only essential needs like drinking, cooking, or cleaning. Non-essential use or irrigation use of city water is prohibited during what the city says is a water conservation emergency. Updates are being posted to the city's website, mccall.id.us. Boise Music Week is headed into its 107th year. Organizers of the free entertainment event spoke on Idaho Matters yesterday, and our Jackson Holmes was listening in.
Boise Music Week started in 1919 as Boiseans began recovering from World War I and the Spanish flu. Kent Solberg is president of Boise Music Week. He says the program started as a concert series with venues around Idaho's capital before a stage was eventually built in front of the state capitol building.
Those productions went on for years, moving eventually into Boise High's auditorium and then sharing it with Capitol High. And in 1988, Velma Morrison made sure that we were able to put on a production in the Morrison Center.
Solberg says Boise Music Week is the oldest free music festival in the country. Publicity Chair Daniel Furman says accessibility is a core value for the organization.
It's hard to find stuff that is easily accessible and high quality and enjoyable to just about anybody. And Boise Music Week fits that bill very well.
This year's festival is partially in celebration of the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. Beginning tomorrow, different events will run daily across Boise. This year's musical, How to Succeed in Business Without Even Trying, begins its weekend run at the Morrison Center Thursday, May 7th. Jackson Holmes, Boise State Public Radio News.
Finally, this morning, Boise State has its second individual women's golf conference champ in about 3 decades this year. Leah Chung won the Women's Mountain West title last week, and here's what it sounded like as she saw her name flash on the screen during the NCAA Division I Women's Golf Selection Show.
Who will make the trip to the only regional on the West Coast this season. And you also see Leah Chung, who plays for Boise State. She was the individual champion out of the Mountain West.
Chung, surrounded by teammates watching the show in the Stuckel Sky Center yesterday. She's one of 6 women's golfers who will compete at a regional site in Stanford. That's one of 6 regional sites. NCAA women's golf competition begins May 11th. And that's your connector on this Thursday morning from Boise State Public Radio. On our website, boisestatepublicradio.org, could state grants help protect homes against hail and wildfire, as they do with hurricanes? That story from the Mountain West News Bureau is at boisestatepublicradio.org or in our free app for your smartphone. James Dawson will be guiding you through your connector experience on Friday, and I'll be back again on Monday. Make it a great day and a great weekend.
If you like podcasts like this, explore more from the Boise State Public Radio podcast family. There you'll find a mix of daily news, Idaho Voices, and in-depth series on a wide range of topics. I'm talking wild horses, political scandals, sustainable ranching, and militia groups in a post-January 6th world. Wherever you get your podcasts, just search Boise State Public Radio to find what Idaho's NPR station has in store for you.